of the Ramapo Town Board and ask our clerk to call the roll.
Deputy Supervisor Withers.
Present.
Councilman Omen. Councilman Press.
I think he's here. I saw him in the hallway.
Councilman Presses.
Well, he should be in momentarily. He was standing out there talking to someone.
Councilwoman Charles.
Here.
Deputy Commissioner of Police Affairs Hunter. Here. Supervisor St. Lawrence.
Here. I'd like to ask Deputy Commissioner Hunter to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Tress was here, and he just ran out, but I think he's coming back in. Okay. The first item on the agenda are our police. So, Chief, you want to start us off?
Yes, good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Supervisor, Deputy Supervisor, Councilman Charles. First item I have is a request to authorize 4 police officers to attend the 2016 Reconstruction Seminar at the State College in Pennsylvania. Cost not to exceed $1,600. Budget line is $3120.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
Second item is authorizing a lieutenant and 2 dispatchers to attend the 2016 Impact Training. Impact is our software program for dispatch. That would be Lieutenant Kevin Lee, Dispatcher Mark Sandler, and Dispatcher Mark Rooney. It's in Saratoga Springs, September 12th through 14th. Cost not to exceed $1,200. Budget line $3120.
Okay, moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
Next item I have is authorization for 7 officers to attend the Traffic Safety Conference in Lake Placid in October, along with the Stop DWI Symposium. Cost is not to exceed $4,200. Budget line $3120.
Charles.
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
That's all I have right now,
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor.
And now we have our Town Attorney,
Thank you.
Mr. Klein.
We have, the first resolution involves the purchase and installation of a trailer for use with the police firing range.
I'd like to go into executive session with that.
Okay.
Next, we have the acceptance of a proposal for the Ellish Parkway Road Improvement Project. This is for work to be done by Atzel, Nasher, and Ziegler, survey work.
Moved by Councilman Charles, seconded by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next item, I think, Ms. Condon will discuss. This is the excess workers' compensation proposal for the current year.
We met with, the insurance committee met with Nookham, Douglas to discuss our offers for this coming year. We have 2 price plans in your packet that came through from the company who is currently handling our safety national. We actually, the program the committee recommends is the one for $101,649. The difference between that and last year is more than $6,000 savings. We're lowering the umbrella coverage on the non-police from $700,000 to $600,000, which is when we would hit the umbrella, which is a good thing. The police have to go up from 8 to 9 based upon our track record. We've had 5 very large claims. They would not give us the 800 again. So what they did is they raised it to 900, but they lowered the all others $100,000, and then they lowered our rate by $6,000. So this is the plan that the committee and Mr. Lovelace recommends.
Okay, great. Moved by
Withers?
Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next item is one for discussion. We've received a request by a New York State DOT contractor who wants to use our park and ride lot in the village of Chestnut Ridge on Route 45. This is near, I believe, the Assembly of God Church, to store equipment. They've not offered to pay the town anything, and I don't know how much space would be involved and what it would impact on the commuters. So, as the question is this something the board wants us to pursue, or do we want to,
Why don't we see what, how long they want to be using it for? This is probably for the public, is this for the, doing the work on Route 45, or putting in new drainage and sidewalks? The state is, and so if it's for that project and it's for the public good, then I have no problem having them utilize the space as long as they're not going to, dislodge commuters. and
so we
things.
need to define the space they need and,
Length of time and
and is
whether
there-
or not, then we could decide, I think, whether we want to waive any fees for, they'd have to, they certainly have us insured.
I want to make sure that we're indemnified if there are any damage to vehicles that are parked there. The heavy equipment that's going to be going in and out of there. Any debris falls off the equipment or anything that hits windshields or anything like that. I just want to make sure the town's held harmless.
Yep.
So we'll get more information, we'll add it on the next workshop agenda to see what we want to do.
Okay.
All right? The next resolution involves OU1, which is the first of the areas remediated by Ford as part of the paint sludge cleanup. This really is just a request that the engineer who was hired by Ford, who has been working with our DPW, be designated as the town site representative for completion of the documents necessary to close the site. This request was reviewed by my office as well as by Kimberly Ray, our environmental consultant, and we have no problem with this request. This resolution approves that.
Who's picking up the cost of this, gentlemen?
It was all paid by Ford. We have no cost.
This is
No cost to us.
Arcade,
Correct.
no cost to us. Arcadis is the engineers that Ford had hired for this project, and so they want him to have the ability to sign off on the final closeout of it with the DEC. All right, moved by Mr. Tress, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next resolution approves a lease for warehouse space for equipment that's owned by the town through its Parks and Recreation Department. This is for the term of 2016.
Can we pull that for executive session?
Okay.
Okay. The next two resolutions are really on for discussion. We have been working with the Office of the Secretary of State for New York with regard to some issues with regard to enforcement and compliance with the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. They've made a request that we adopt certain changes, technical changes to our fire code as well as our zoning code. We've prepared a draft of those legislative changes, which we believe complies with what the Secretary of State's office has been requesting. Procedurally, we will need to set a public hearing date to consider the adoption of those changes. However, it's my office's recommendation that we first provide a draft copy to the Secretary of State's office, get their comments before we set the public hearing. So we will send those out tomorrow to the Secretary of State's office, and if they're approved by them, then we'll come back to the board as soon as possible and ask that a public hearing date be set either at the end of August or sometime in September.
Can you please provide, do we have the actual copies of it to the board?
Yeah, we'll be distributing those to the board later today. They're actually physically working on them as we speak.
And will you actually highlight the changes that were being made?
What you
Versus
get
the
will
old
be,
one. What it was and what it
yes,
is.
what you'll get will be obvious what we're adding. Some sections are brand new, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So that takes care of the next two resolutions. So we will set a public hearing date, but it'll probably be at our next meeting.
Okay. So we don't need to do that now.
That's correct.
Okay. Next, did you have any other?
That's it, except for, I do have a contract negotiation item to add to executive session.
All right, so we'll put that in executive session, contract negotiation. Next item is personnel, and we're going to, A is going to be pulled from the agenda. So Linda, you want to take over the Director of Personnel, Linda Condon?
Item 3B is a resolution to establish a position of office services aide in the purchasing department.
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
Item 3C, excuse me, is a resolution to appoint Debbie Tortora to office services
Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Under item 3D, we are appointing 2 police radio dispatchers. One appointee is on vacation, so he's unable to be here, but he's currently an employee in the highway department. That would be Tom Stevens Jr. The other candidate we're appointing is Evan Humphrey. Mr. Humphrey's here. We would like to appoint both of these dispatchers effective August 15th.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Mr. Humphries, you want to come up, and congratulations. Okay, Finance 4A is the amendment of the 2016 budget. This is forfeiture of funds received from the County of Rockland. Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Item 4B, amendment to the 2016 budget, donations from Aircool and Trayon Electrical for Film Festival.
Charles?
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Purchasing, 5A, acceptance of a proposal, Sterling Environmental Engineers, PC, revision of the site plan. This is all part of our EPA that we're working on. That includes the Pistol Range and the installation of some new wells along the Ramapo closed landfill.
Can we talk about why the revision site plan? What is the purpose of it?
They're asking for some more wells to be put in, monitoring wells.
And where are these monitor wells? What?
Right at the landfill.
Okay.
And one of the wells will be just north of the Pistol Range. We have a well that's just right by the Pistol Range. The EPA wants us to put one a little bit further up in the mountains to get a baseline of the material that flows underground there. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. 5B is the Roberge Company for the installation of flow meter for the leachate collection system. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. That is to put in some flow meters in the remaining pump stations and wells along the Ramapo, by the Ramapo landfill. Council, you had a new business item that's going to be an executive session, was that it?
Yes, that involves a contract negotiation, so we should discuss that in executive session first.
Do you need to have some things to go into executive session?
Well, I have one item for new business. If you would ask me to
Yeah.
look into the policing costs vis-à-vis the TZ diversion plan.
Yes.
When we enacted that, I'm prepared to ask the board to request reimbursement as a result of the crane collapse on the Tappan Zee Bridge. Captain Riley's prepared the costs associated with it by our department, and I'm asking for authority to have the finance director seek reimbursement for that. We spent $3,453.10 in policing costs for that event.
Okay. A motion to ask for reimbursement of the police costs for the collapse of the crane on the Tappan Zee Bridge, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, request to go into executive session for some contract discussions. Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. We're going into executive session now.
What I'd like to address the board on tonight is, how much does this board really know about the Ramapo Local Development Corporation? There are liaisons. You have liaisons to the golf course, liaisons to the housing authority. Why isn't there a board member who is a liaison to the RLDC? Like, how much does this board know about the RLDC? Does any of you know when the last meeting of the RLDC was? Have any of you ever attended a meeting of the RLDC? Does anyone know how the RLDC informs the public when they're having a meeting? It says, public notice of time and place of meeting scheduled at least 1 week prior thereto shall be given to the news media and shall be conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations. What news media does the RLDC give notice of their meetings to? And what conspicuously placed places is the notice of the public meeting found? It also states that when a public body has the ability to do so, notice of the time and place of a meeting shall be conspicuously posted on the public body's internet website. The Ramapo Local Development Corporation has an internet website, but I've never seen any notice of public meetings put up on the website. It seems to me that the RLDC is some secret society that nobody's supposed to know what's going on, when the meetings are, where the meetings are, when do they meet, and where do they meet. So I'd like this board to look more into the RLDC because the 3 board members on the Ramapo Local Development Corporation serve at the pleasure of the town board. So you can make changes to it anytime you want. And therefore, since this board oversees the Ramapo Local Development Corporation, you need to do much more so you can answer the questions that I just asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Anyone else? Mr. Dent?
Chris, first of all, Rudy Dent, 8 Red Oak Lane and 272 McNamara. Been here 20 years, and I have very little respect for you, but I never thought I'd thank you for anything as I am now for the harsh reality of what I've had to endure and see in this town under your administration. I'm beyond rage. I'm into just calm resolution now. I did tell you about the indictments coming down. I knew the names attached to those indictments. I think I gave you that information about over a year before they did come down. And now the only ones that came down are minus the names that were previously attached to others. That means that either those people are cooperating or they may have been cleared. But more than likely is that they're cooperating. So the noose is getting tighter, and I really do hope that you do get the 20 years you deserve. I'm very happy to see that now we have John Lynch, who's going to be here to take over a job that requires integrity and credibility, whereas you've shown yourself to have none, because it's pretty clear that at this point you have been sucking up to the entity that actually runs this town. It's not you. You're not the king of Ramapo, as you've stated to other people. You certainly are not. And the noose is coming down. It's tightening. It's just a matter of time. And I really hope to see you serve every bit of the time you deserve. Also, I just had another incident with the police whom you shackle and prevent from doing their job. That is, you reward and you punish. You reward them when they stand up for those you are sucking up to, and you punish them when they do the right thing. So the police in this town are not able to do their job. Also like to know how you justify Ian Smith as the building inspector's deputy now that you are just hiring him. How do you justify paying him more money than he was offered on his previous job at our expense? How do you justify sending Pete Brower off to Israel for training at an expense of $3,000 when he was soon to retire? how do you justify Pete Brower implicating his secretary in a possible charge of theft of services for using our dime, our time, to run his private business? And he actually made, are you listening, Chris, or
Yeah,
are
I
you
am.
disregarding me?
I've listened
All
to
right.
everything you said.
How do you justify his actions?
Okay, anyone else in public participation? Motion to close? This person here, okay. Did you want to speak? Okay, it's up to you, you don't have to.
Number one, I don't live in the actual town of Ram. I live in Clarkstown, but I'm actually here taking care.
We need your name and your address. But,
Stephen
you
G.
know,
Mafty, 2 Capitol Court, New City, New York, 10956. I just stepped in real quick to see what's going on.
Okay.
But I have a question. Why did, pertaining to the purchase of installation of trailer for police firing range, why couldn't that be discussed during the public? Or they have to go into executive
It's
session?
not on the agenda, it's going to be discussed at our next workshop.
Oh, sorry, I apologize for that. Also, with the lease of warehouse space for public, why did it have to also be executive session? How come you guys can discuss that with the,
That will be discussed in our next meeting.
that's all I wanted
Okay.
to know. Thank you, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, guys.
Motion to close public participation. Moved by Mr. Tress, second by Mr. Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. We have 3 resolutions that came out of our executive session that we will do in the public. One is to, I'll give it to our counsel, Michael Klein, and you can go over. One is with the chief, one is with Feist Ambulance, and one is on the sale of the property.
The first resolution will be to waive the balance of the probationary period of Brad Wydell in his position as chief of police of the town of Round Point.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next resolution is one that consents to the assignment of the contract for the sale of 120 Torn Valley Road from County Carding Limited to a related entity called High Mountains Maintenance LLC, and approves related changes to the contract of sale and the license agreement. Let me just point out, the financial terms in terms of the sale price is unaffected by the other changes that are being, that were requested and are being approved this morning.
Okay. Moved by? Mr. Tress, seconded by? Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
And the last resolution approves a request by Feist Ambulance Corps to facilitate their obtaining a mortgage to finance the construction of their new ambulance building on property that the town purchased at their request for their use. The request basically consents to a condition in the mortgage that if there was a mortgage foreclosure, the bank could lease out the property to an entity without getting the prior approval of the town of Round Point.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Charles, seconded by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We're adjourned.